Welcome, everyone. We hope you've been enjoying the summit thus far. Welcome to our Day in the Life session, a day in the life of advertisement as an Amazonian. We want to give you a real sense of what it's like to work at Amazon and what's important to think about to prepare to apply for a role here. You can ask questions by entering them in the chat box, and we will address them accordingly. I'm going to start by introducing myself. My name is Janine Blige. I am the Senior Program Manager for Advertising, Recruiting, and Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And I will ask each of the panelists to introduce themselves as well, starting with Chanel.
Hi, everyone. I am Chanel. I am a programmatic solutions consultant at Amazon, where I focus on educating clients on how to use the Amazon DSP for programmatic advertising. I do sit in the LA office, although I have not been in the office yet. I'm excited to join and see how that is, but that is me.
Thanks, Chanel. Raj?
Sure. Hi, I'm Raja Ganta. I lead product marketing and advertiser experience for a product called Sponsored Display. I'm based here in New York, and I'm very glad to be back in New York, having spent a few years in Europe. I joined Amazon about almost 10 years ago, which makes me feel really old, but I'm glad to be here today and share some of my experiences with the group.
And last but not least, Baron.
Hey everybody, I'm Baron Harper. I'm a senior ad tech account executive in the advertising org. So I work with advertisers who are running self-service programmatic campaigns on the Amazon DSP. And those campaigns are run across streaming TV and computers and mobile devices and tablets. And I've been with Amazon for a year. I'm a boomerang. I was at Amazon years ago as well. Really excited to be back. Have not been back in the office since the pandemic started, but really looking forward to seeing everybody and having the conversation today.
Thanks so much, Baron. And we're going to just go ahead and jump in. Baron, would you mind kicking us off? Could you tell us about your day in the life?
Yeah, so for me specifically, I work with our restaurant advertisers so I'm working with them to plan and launch campaigns, like I mentioned before, across streaming TV, mobile devices, computers, tablets. And so most days I'm looking at campaign performance and talking to our advertisers about how they can be more effective. I'm talking to advertisers who don't work with us yet and trying to understand what their goals are to see if we can achieve them. And then, I'm also collaborating cross functions with a variety of team members across the product org, engineering, other salespeople, and we're always trying to figure out how we can improve our tools and services for our advertising customers.
Awesome, thank you for that. Chanel?
Yeah,
what about
sure.
you?
Yeah, sure. So my days do differ a little bit, but generally speaking, I do focus on ensuring my customers are comfortable within the Amazon DSP. So I do work with different agencies and direct clients, and I educate them on how to use our platform. I provide them with product updates and different ways to optimize their campaigns to make sure that they are successful in the platform. Typically, I'll start my day to see if there are any client questions, anything that needs to be troubleshooted, or anything that's a top priority. I'll head into any office hours or client meetings where I'll share any product updates with the team or anything that's rolled out within the platform, the UI, and show them hands-on keyboard how that affects their campaigns. And then I'll also give them suggestions, like I mentioned, to improve their performance as well. And then if I do have any planned education sessions, I'll prepare for those and prepare for those for the clients and present those. And then I also save some time for internal project work. So if I have any projects that I'm working on outside of my typical day-to-day, I'll save some time for those and work on those as well.
Nice. Raja, do you mind sharing?
Sure. So the product I work on is evolving fairly quickly. To give you some context, we had 26 go-to-market so far this year, and that's ranged from global expansion to self-service advertising on Twitch. And so no one day is actually alike. And that's actually a good thing. It keeps you on your toes. It allows me to work with many different cross-functional partners. And that ranges from talking to advertisers and partners to understand their needs, working with engineering teams to actually build requirements and highlight opportunities where we can actually chase opportunities and build our product to fill those needs, and also then create messaging and positioning with our teams to then evangelize across internal stakeholders like sales, brand marketing, as well as actually think about how we can build that into our functional product through things like experiments and web labs. And so my day is actually really fun. It's really hectic, but it keeps me on my toes, and I feel like I'm constantly learning.
Very nice. Thank you all for sharing. And Raja, I think that you have the tenure here amongst this panel. I know I've only been here about 8 months. So my next question, I would love for you to kick off and tell us what keeps you excited and motivated about work every day.
Yeah, so I've been in quite a few different groups at Amazon. I guess I should give some color on that. I worked with luxury European and American fashion brands for many years. I worked with Asian factories to build the private brands business for a few years, and then I owned marketing for a few years. And in the advertising org and Amazon generally, what I've loved is how much the company evolves year to year, month to month, and really sort of sets the standard for how we think about evolving the space we're in for the future. Advertising is really interesting because there's really complex problems within the digital advertising business. And there are really a lot of global trends that keep you on your toes to think about how can you can really innovate for audiences and also innovate for advertisers. So that's really what keeps me motivated every day. It's great that we have, such diverse cross-functional partners. And also the fact that at Amazon, you can, be a non-traditional sort of hire or have a non-traditional background and have the opportunity to test the waters throughout the various different businesses.
Thank you. Baron, would you like to weigh in?
Yeah, so I came from a much smaller company, and Amazon is a really, really big company. So a lot of days it's not always easy to see kind of the impact, of something that you did onto, such a huge organization. But I think early on, one of my managers told me to really focus on owning and controlling like what I can. And I think, when I learned to really own my day-to-day projects and do my, my personal best work, I started to see how each project is like a piece of the puzzle. And when you look around you and you see everybody else who's giving their personal best and doing everything they can to maintain a really high standard, then you can see the big picture, and it's really clear to understand why Amazon continues to grow and grow every year, innovate, create new and better projects or products year over year. And that's something that's really inspiring to be a part of and really exciting. And that's what motivates me on the day-to-day.
Chanel, how about you?
Yeah, sure. So I think something that motivates me is probably my team. I am technically an individual contributor, but I do get the chance to work with some amazing and super smart people within Amazon, and even my clients are really great. So we really do work together to ensure that we are putting forth the best work for our clients. And I think that was something that I was nervous about when I first joined. I was a little bit intimidated. I wasn't sure what to expect from the other Amazonians, but I was really surprised by like how kind everybody was willing to help, and everybody is still willing to help. Within the kind of programmatic space, everything is constantly changing. There's always new information and things that we kind of have to keep up on. So it's always something that you have to kind of continue to work through. But our team is so great and smart, and we're always here to help each other and provide and share information and make sure that everybody is kind of in a place to succeed. So definitely always motivated by my team members and people that I work with inside of Amazon. Yeah.
Thank you. I think one of the things that's fascinating about the advertising division is just our diversity of backgrounds and where everyone uniquely comes in and what role that translates to at Amazon. And so Chanel, could you talk a little bit about what made you choose Amazon personally and the role specifically that you're in now?
Yeah, sure. So I'd worked in the programmatic space and advertising space for the last 6 years, and I'd come from an agency background. So I had Amazon as a partner, actually. I was working with Amazon from the other side of things. And I was always really curious about the intricacies of the platform and the DSP and what it would like to be on the other side. And Amazon's offerings within the DSP in terms of data and audiences, inventory, everything was just super unique and great. And the industry has continuing to grow. So it was something I always thought about doing. So I thought that with all that being said, it was really just like the perfect next step for me in the direction that I wanted to go with my career.
Raja, what about you?
Sure. So like Baron, I am actually a boomerang. So I'll speak to the second time I came back to Amazon and why I did that. The thing about Amazon is we have leadership principles that really guide us and define the culture in a way that I found doesn't exist in many other places. We're a peculiar culture. We hold ourselves to very high standards, but that culture is also what pushes us to innovate and invent on behalf of both advertisers as well as our end customers. And so one of the reasons that I was attracted to Amazon is just the opportunity to sort of shape the business and sort of industry or vertical that you sort of are in. And I've really seen that to be true. And just the ability to evolve, and also sort of, again, the people are what keeps you at Amazon. And there's just a quite nice diversity of backgrounds and thought, as well as sort of the international exposure that you get working at Amazon.
Very nice. And Baron, before I have you jump in and answer that question, Raj, I have a follow-up question for you that I am going to ask everyone else, but you kind of spoke on it with this boomerang, you and Baron. So I'm going to ask you first. And thinking back to whichever time in your interview process, tell me something that stood out to you the most. You can pick which one.
Sure. I'll pick the first time I interviewed at Amazon. So picture it way back in 2010 or 11 or whenever that was. What really stood out to me was actually how different the individuals were who interviewed me. When I started at Amazon, the New York office was barely an office. There were no real desks. I think I was interviewed in a side conference room. And what really impressed me was just how sort of relatable those individuals were, how different they were, what backgrounds they came from. Some were Amazonian, some were from the fashion industry. I was interviewing as part of the fashion business. And, one of the things that I found really true is the interview process at Amazon can be really intimidating, right? Like you interview with, let's say, 4, 5, 6 individuals. They ask very pointed questions, but the interview is actually designed to help the interviewer understand a bit more about you. And so what I really enjoyed was sort of being able to sort of share some of my think big ideas for the business that I was interviewing in. I came from a culture of department stores where that wasn't encouraged. And so that's something that really sort of attracted me to Amazon in terms of encouraging, you to have sort of this diversity of thought and sort of point of view.
Thank you for sharing that. All right, Baron, I'm circling back. Love to know what made you choose Amazon and the role that you're in now. And again, I gave you the same option. You can pick one or two, but tell me something that stood out about that interview process.
Yeah, so I'll talk more specifically about the second time around. So when I left Amazon initially, it was I really wanted to kind of try to apply the things that I had learned from an organization like this to startups. So working for really small startups, and I had a really great run being able to see organizations scale. In my last company, I was there for several years and saw us grow by multiples over time. And had a really great run there. But when I was looking at kind of my future and where my career was going to go over the next, 5, 10 years, advertising has been really at an inflection point, especially in regards to privacy and identity, and how do we continue to, give customers a really good advertising experience while valuing and protecting their privacy. And when I looked at, what company could I go to and contribute what I've learned that is really going to be at the forefront of this, new era in advertising, and just hands down, it was going to be Amazon. So I was really excited about the opportunity to come back. But, both times around when it came to the interview process, and I guess, what stood out, it's like, it's really difficult to scale a company to this point and still maintain a really high hiring bar. And I think something that I really recognized was how every interviewer was very keenly aware of how important that is. And so, going through the process, everybody was really nice. No one tried to trick me. No one was arrogant. Everybody was really kind, and, they listened. But it was very clear that they paid really close attention to the details. And it was clear that they understood what it meant to be Amazonian and embody the leadership principles. And, they were really making sure that I could come in and be thoughtful about things like customer obsession and maintaining a high bar and delivering results for my team and for the customers. So it was really cool to see, how everybody is on board and understands how important that really is.
Thank you. And Chanel, I know with your process being a little over 8 months now, I would love to hear something that stood out from you with your interview process as well.
Yeah, sure. I think that something that stood out for me during the interview process was probably just the variety of people that I got to speak with. The process is a little bit longer. You do get to speak with a variety of people. So it wasn't just people that interviewed me that were in the same role that I was looking to join. It was people that worked in the product team and program managers and sales as well. So it was great to learn and speak with different people that I would potentially interact with and kind of learn their perspective. And as Baron mentioned, it really all boils down to kind of how they kind of see the leadership principles, and it kind of ties all together with all of that. So I think just speaking to different people and having those conversations and really learning how things kind of all interact was really great.
Very nice, very nice. Thank you. My next question is for Raja. For the role that you're in, what is the most important thing that new candidates should know as they're interviewing for this position? And remind us of your position if you don't mind.
Sure. So the first thing I'll say is I think Baron said it best. Like, the interview process is not meant to trick anyone or get anyone. It's actually meant to help, the candidate showcase, their accomplishments and their contributions. My role is a very unique role because I straddle both the technical side. So I worked with engineering and technical product managers to bring products to life. But I also own what would be traditional product marketing. So I work with sort of sales teams and really craft the vision of what our product is. And our product is Sponsored Display. We're all about helping advertisers reach relevant audiences through their journey online. And that includes the shopping journey and entertainment journey. And so for a new candidate interviewing for, a technical role, a non-technical role, a hybrid of the two, the guidance I'll give is, at Amazon, we have leadership principles, and your hiring manager and the people around you, they're designed to sort of enable you to succeed and empower you to succeed across those leadership principles. But you define your destiny at Amazon, right? It's truly sort of, anchored in this idea of, we chase opportunities where we see it, and that includes for individuals. You really sort of own your workload. You have to prioritize ruthlessly in order to meet your goals, but it's up to you to sort of think about what areas you want to dive into, what opportunities do you want to pursue, and that self-starter mentality is really really, I think, one of the most important things to demonstrate as part of the interview process. The other thing I will say is it's really important at Amazon, whether you're an individual contributor or a people manager, I've been both many times, is the ability to influence others and influence others of other backgrounds. So as you're thinking through sort of interviewing for, any role, think about not just what you were able to accomplish, but how you were able to work through others and influence others to sort of accomplish, their goals or influence them for your own goals.
Thank you. And Chanel, I'm actually going to throw you that same question. I know when people think of programmatic solutions, I know at least myself, I wasn't too sure what that meant, right? But I know that you're customer facing. So I would love to also know what's important for a new candidate who's looking to interview for a position like yours.
Yeah, definitely. Having understanding of the programmatic space is really important for consultants like myself, but we also have specialist roles that are where we're looking for more strengths within the leadership principles, things like customer obsession, dive deep, and ownership. So aside from just having those really great programmatic skills and background, those leadership principles are also super important. So we work directly with customers. So if new candidates can kind of demonstrate that they have the ability to go above and beyond for customers and dive deep into issues and take ownership of solutions on behalf of our customers. If you can demonstrate that, that's something great and a good fit for our team right now. So that's whether if you come from the advertising industry or other work experience too. So there is a variety in terms of the different backgrounds that we kind of are looking for. Having that technical and programmatic space background is great. And then there are also more entry roles where just diving deep in those leadership principles and showing that you kind of have those as well is going to be a good fit for us too.
And a follow-up to that question, could you talk a little bit about how you work with technical and non-technical stakeholders in your role?
Yeah, sure. So I do work with both. I do work with the product team, which are a more technical team, and they do make changes to our platform. And I kind of learn from them on the way that the platform has changed and new products that have been released. And then I kind of relay that to our clients in a more digestible way. And I also do work with engineering team. If I do have anything that I am troubleshooting, they will look into those issues for me and we'll go back and forth to find a solution for our customers. So just making sure I understand like that technical side and then also just being able to kind of digest that myself and then communicate that in an effective way for the non-technical stakeholders, which would be even people in our team. So I will work with people like Baron on the sales side. We actually work together. So ad tech AEs and then account executives as well. I will work with them and kind of translate some of the things I did work with on the technical side to communicate with them and then also to our customers. So I will kind of make sure that all the technical and language and everything is kind of digestible and easier for people to understand. So it's kind of, I'm kind of in the middle of it, I would say, understanding the technical side and understanding the product and the engineering to go through troubleshooting, but then collaborating with the non-technical stakeholders, such as the sales team and our clients to make sure that we're kind of collaborating on things like strategy as well. So yeah, it's something I enjoy actually, being a foot in both sides.
Very nice. And Baron, I know you shared a little bit about your background earlier, but would love to know if you have any advice that you would give someone interested in moving into your role who has a non-conventional background.
Yeah, and I think even beyond my role, but just any role at Amazon, I had a non-conventional background when I initially joined Amazon in 2012. Like the traditional candidate going into that role would probably have a lot of experience selling advertising to small businesses. And I had been a full-time touring drummer for 2 years. And before that, like the bulk of my experience was working for a music marketing firm. But, something that I realized that actually even surprised me in the interview process was like at Amazon, we're far more concerned with, how a candidate's skill set can translate into, their ability to embody the leadership principles that we've all been, talking about this whole time. So I think that, no matter what your experience is, I'd encourage anyone to think about how their background has uniquely positioned them to be able to, come into not only, fulfill the job requirements, but operate with our values. And if you feel that your background has prepared you to do that, then you should absolutely own it, especially if it's non-conventional, because I think that that's really Amazonian.
Yeah. And one thing that you all just mentioned when you were sharing those great stories and backgrounds is about the leadership principle. So I have a question for all the panelists. What is your favorite leadership principle, and how do you leverage that leadership principle in your role every day? Raj, I'm going to pick on you because you got the tenure, so.
Got it. Well, I'm a Capricorn, which means being right a lot is going to be my favorite leadership principle. If you don't know, Capricorns are usually right. But in all seriousness, if you ask Jeff Bezos this question, this is the one that he says, and it's you kind of need all the other leadership principles to be right a lot. And at Amazon, you sort of need to bat for average. You don't need to be right every single time, right? Like that's part of the learning process, but you need to be right enough times to be able to chase opportunities and go big where you need to go. I mean, the things that we think about at Amazon are these concepts of failing fast. So if you're wrong, fail fast and try again, right? So like if we know something's not right, we fail fast and we think about how we can improve for the future. And the other thing we think about is this concept of one-way and two-way doors. If it's a two-way door and we know that we can, go back and think about redesigning something or redoing something, then we should always take that decision. If it's a one-way door and things will become really expensive for us to be wrong, we shouldn't take those decisions. And so, if I were to think about the one, and I guess Jeff also thinks about the one that leads to success at Amazon, it's being right a lot.
Chanel, how about you?
Oh, I love Raj's answer. That was really great. I think for me, probably customer obsession. It's probably likely because I was on the customer side, kind of the direct side that I work across right now. So I do have a great sense of their perspective. So I think that customer obsession is really important to me in my day-to-day in my role. So I try to listen and understand my customers' needs and also just provide proactive support to help resolve issues, even maybe things that they hadn't thought about yet. So my goal throughout the day is really just to make sure that I'm prioritizing keeping their trust and their needs, and just really listening and making sure that I'm kind of aware of everything that's going on and how I can resolve issues for them and just kind of go above and beyond to help them. So yeah, definitely customer obsession for me.
Nice. And last but not least, Baron.
I think Raj stole mine, but I guess I'll pick something else. Insisting on the highest standards. I think, it's really easy to say that like we're going to give our best or like, try really hard to do a good job. But I think when we operate with that mentality in everything that we do, again, like it's really clear to see why Amazon is able to continue to like grow and innovate and do so many amazing things. Because it's like even in the minutia, when you just, when you just commit to insisting on the highest standards in anything that we're doing, it translates into amazing outcomes. And so I think that it's more than just lip service, but it's being able to do that allows you to embody some of the other leadership principles, like consistently delivering results and being right a lot and all those other things. So, to me, it really starts with just, insisting on the highest standard.
I think those were all great answers, even after Raja. So thank you all for sharing. All right, so let's bust up some myths. I would like each of you all to tell us one thing that you see either in the interview process from candidates or on their resume that ends up impacting their candidacy. I think there's a lot of myths, rumors, thoughts, insights. We mentioned that the interview process is not there to trick anyone, but I think there's some insight that you all can provide into demystifying the interview process and areas that are common missteps for a lot of candidates, either in the interview process or on their resume. Chanel, want to kick us off?
Yeah, sure. So I think for the interview process, we do see a lot of candidates that are not really clear on what they did specifically in their previous experience on a project or within their role. So, and I think I did this myself. Well, you'll say like, we launched this, or we launched this project, or we did this, or that kind of thing to fix an issue for a customer. So it's really hard to see specifically what the strengths of the candidate themselves brought to the table. So I think that's something that we want to see more of what exactly you specifically did. So like how you specifically contributed, whether it's a smaller part or a bigger part on the team, it'll just help kind of assess like the unique strengths. So I think that's something that is kind of a myth, and people, I think even feedback when you are kind of interviewing, you kind of get like focus on what you did specifically to demonstrate your strengths and our leadership principles. So make sure you focus on yourself and figure out what you specifically did within that project, and so we can assess kind of the strengths in that sense.
Very helpful. Baron, have anything to share?
Yeah, I think, especially in a sales role, I think a lot of candidates that come in assume that success in previous roles that they've had means that that in and of itself qualifies them to have a position at Amazon. And while we talk about leaders being right a lot and all these things, Amazon is an incredibly collaborative place. Humility is incredibly important. And when you have a candidate come in that, you can tell that they're just trying to ride high off of either a company that they came from or successes that they said that they've had on their resume, but that doesn't matter compared to, again, their ability to embody the leadership principles. And so a lot of times we'll see candidates with frankly, a lack of preparation because they anticipate being able to come in and just talk about, these are all the things that I did, when really we're looking for, the ways that we believe they'll be able to come in and contribute to our culture and our values and operate within the system.
Absolutely. Raja?
Yeah, I love this idea of humility, and I think it dovetails with my last answer of, being a Capricorn. I think it's really important as part of the interview process of not to be scared of admitting sort of failure. Like failure is a part of life. It happens to all of us. But what's really important is thinking about how you learn from that, and also how you would think big from that and how you'd really expand on that experience. I think one of the things that we see all the time is individuals talking are speaking to experiences that they accomplished by themselves. And when you're on a team or when you're leading a team, you actually want a teammate. You don't want just a sort of a straight up individual contributor. So I'd really encourage, candidates to think about, hey, these are initiatives you might have led, but what are initiatives that you actually supported on, and how you influenced others, and how you collaborated with other individuals, and where did you actually fail, and how did that shape you as sort of an individual and as a leader?
Awesome. Thank you. I think that was all great advice. And so as we go to close out our session, my last question is to each of the panelists, and piggybacking off of this last question of understanding and demystifying our interview process, what is one thing, thinking back to your interview process, that you wish you knew when you were interviewing, that you know now and can share with this group? Baron, how about you kick us off?
Yeah, I mean,
While you're pondering, it was a moment to jump in. I saw the urge.
It's all good. I think, kind of piggybacking off of what Raj said, like, yeah, I wish that I had like, I think I came in really nervous and expecting it to be, hard or that people are going to be tough. But like, again, we're looking for teammates to come in and, when you can be confident in what you've accomplished and really confident in just who you are. And, that's what really shines through. And I think to a certain extent, I was just really wanted to make sure that they saw something in me that I could like, communicate that I would be like really valuable for the team and all that. And I didn't need to be that nervous. Just being able to walk through the questions, talk about my experiences, how I operate and how I think and process. Like those are the things that they wanted to see, not just like, an image that I could put forward. And so, fortunately it worked out. But I would say to anybody that is, going to be interviewing, like, don't get too caught up in that and putting the right face forward or something like that. Just be yourself, because that's going to be, the kind of teammate that, ideally we want to bring on board.
Thank you. Raja?
Yeah, I actually interviewed for a role and they actually hired someone else. And they came back to me 3 months later and offered me a different role, and that was a totally different function. And so, like, reflecting on that experience, I think I would have not been so tied to one specific role that I was interviewing for. And actually, it was really fortunate that, my interviewers thought that I would be able to be successful in a different role. So my advice would be, and this is just generally to be at Amazon, don't be tied to specific skill sets or roles. Be more attuned to your ability set. The other thing that I would say is really know sort of the business as well as Amazon when you're interviewing. I think when I interviewed, someone asked me if I knew what Prime was, and I actually wasn't able to articulate what it was. It was a long time ago. Prime was pretty new back then, believe it or not. But I knew everything about the role and business that I was being hired for. So I would just encourage everyone to think about, like, you're being hired by Amazon, not just for a specific skill set, and that we look for, more ability sets instead.
Thank you. And Chanel?
Yeah, sure. So I think I'll probably build upon what Baron and Raja said. I think first off, just knowing that we're all human, it's really easy to get really intimidated during the interview process and get really nervous, but we've all been there. And I think it's just really important to kind of just tap into your experience. And like, if you've gotten this far, you have that background, so just tap into where you have succeeded and where you have failed, and just really know yourself and really tap into those experiences. So I think that's really important, to not get the idea of kind of working at Amazon just make you overthink things, and just be calm and nervous during the interview process. If you need to take a second to kind of regroup your thoughts, that's always possible. No one's going to judge you for that. We're all human, and we all kind of need that at some point. So I think that's something to be mindful of. And then second off, also just like Raj had mentioned, just really knowing the business, knowing the leadership principles. We kind of show that throughout the interview process. So it's important to really do your research, and do your research on the role and Amazon and kind of leadership principles. So you do have that knowledge. I think that's something I kind of underestimated in the beginning of my interview process, but it is something that is important, and being able to articulate that and speak through what it means and what it means based off of your experiences is something that I would definitely give advice to people that are going to interview at Amazon, because I think it is very important, and you might not realize it before you start interviewing.
Absolutely. As I reflect on my process not too long ago, one of the best pieces of advice that I received was to remember to have fun. I looked at the person crazy when they told me that, of course, because how can you have fun in an interview process? But I think one of the great things about Amazon's culture is our peculiar culture, how easy it is to actually find the fun in going through our process. And you will find, as we've seen and has been shared today, that you have that similar role every day that we show up to be Amazonians. So with that, I want to thank Raja, Chanel, and Baron for joining us today. I hope you all got some great insight into a day in the life at Amazon Advertising. And we look forward to you enjoying the rest of the summit. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.